Are you interested in understanding what a sales professional at a tech company does? And what do their job responsibilities look like? The answer is yes, then stick around. Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Career Talks, where I chat with professionals about their career paths, daily job responsibilities and how they manage to land their jobs. In this video, I talk to Shresht. Shresht is a seasoned sales professional that currently works at a software company called Certinia as a senior account executive. In the previous video, Shresht explained to us in detail what is sales and what are the different roles in the sales industry. In this video, Shresht will explain in detail his job role and his job responsibilities as a senior account executive. I hope you'll find this video interesting. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Can we start with what Certinia does?
Okay,
a bit.
sure.
What does the company do?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk a bit about your responsibilities and
Perfect.
day-to-day more.
So just on a high level, right, we help services organizations, right? So as you can imagine, there's a big challenge in the market right now, right? Interest rates are all-time high. There's a lot of credit crunch, cost of living crisis, etc. So if you're thinking from a services standpoint, you want to maximize on the resources you have. When I talk about maximize utilization, you want to reduce waste, right? And you want to bill accurately and also improve your cash flow. So where Certinia comes in is we provide a solution which sits on the Salesforce platform, which manages the life cycle of a services engagement. So let's talk about some of the things they do, like from a life cycle. So you are a consultant, okay? When you're engaging, you want to make sure, A, you build an accurate statement of work. Do you estimate accurately, right? Because you don't want to make sure that you undercharge a customer, right? So you make sure that you estimate accurately. Then the next bit is, okay, how quickly, once the deal is closed, how quickly can you start delivery? So how quickly can you manage your resource and get them assigned to the project, right? So we help in resource management and skills management, right? The right skills, right time, right? And then we help them do the project management, right? Are the consultants on time? How quickly can they do their time and expense? How much are they within the scope of the project? Are they working towards a scope, right? And the next bit is when you do the time and expense, how quickly can you bill the customer? And then more importantly, recognize the revenue, because we all want to make sure that we're recognizing the revenue. And the last bit is obviously cash collection, right? So the entire 6 elements of the life cycle, we help them, right?
And that applies to your clients or any services company. They can basically come to Certinia and depending on the problem, but the services apply to any services company, right? Or do you focus on a certain industry or?
So any company who is very much services driven. So think about like consultancy firms, the big 4 accountancy, legal firms, but also big technology companies that have a services arm. Right? So at the end of the day, it's the same principle, the same challenges, and they not only want to sell their products, but they also want to sell their services to help their product sale, for example. So they still want to make sure that their services delivers so that they can grow their products. And it's all about doing that quickly and easily as well. So that's where we help. So those are like what you call our ideal customer profiles.
Okay. And within these services you offer, like where do you sit in as a sales person or as a senior account executive at Certinia? What is your role and how do you help that company either attract the customers or grow the accounts of existing one? If you can touch a bit on the definition of your role, basically.
Sure. So as an AE, right, you do the same. You manage the entire sales life cycle, right? So for example, you select a few accounts that you think are the perfect candidate for your offering.
So you do like a research.
So for example, let's say we're at the very beginning, you get handed a territory. Right, so you get handed over that you're going to look after this territory, whether it be high tech or business services.
When you say territory, is it like a set of the products you offer, or how?
So it's more from the account perspective.
Okay,
let's take it even simpler. You're a big organization, right? And you say, okay, I can have this much addressable market,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
Then you start dividing that up.
Yeah.
You might say, okay, we have either small accounts,
Mhm.
so you'll call them like growth accounts.
Okay.
Then you have mid-market,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe size of company, and then you have enterprise accounts.
Yeah.
So I'm an enterprise rep, so I sit in the enterprise space.
Okay.
And then within the enterprise space, you get like an industry.
Mhm.
So financial services,
Okay.
business services, high tech, etc. So when you get that industry,
Which is high tech for you.
for me, it's business services.
Business services. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So you get your territory, and then you start doing your territory plan.
Mhm.
Okay. Where do you see your existing customers? So you build some research on
Yeah,
existing customers, but you then start working on the wider net new customers,
Mhm.
right? And you see, okay, how can I bring that list down to a handful of tier one accounts?
Mhm.
And these tier one accounts are basically the ones which you think are a perfect fit for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you can deliver them value. You see that they have certain challenges that you have helped
Mhm.
other customers in the past, and you can help them. And then you start building out account plans for this handful of customers
And that's before you reach out to them.
before you reach out,
You
right?
need
Because
to be ready. You need to show them how
Exactly.
we're going to offer you value,
Yeah.
solve your problems, etc.
exactly, because
Makes
you wouldn't
sense.
want to reach out to them, right? You don't want to just pitch your product.
Yeah.
You want to deliver some value. You want to pitch a value.
You want to
And
see the match. Like this is
Exactly.
where we are gonna help you
Yeah.
solve X, Y, Z.
And it's
problems.
getting even harder and harder, right? Because right now they want people to be informed.
Mhm.
With the current world where everything's readily available, you can Google things.
Mhm.
So they're like, you don't want someone just to pitch a product and not know what the customer is currently
mhm,
doing.
mhm,
So
mhm.
research is very key,
Yeah.
right? And you build out these massive account plans to say, this is how a company generates revenue. This is what their cost. These are their current challenges. This is what their strategy is going forward, because they'll declare that, especially big companies
Yeah.
or public companies want to tell shareholders what they're working
Yeah.
on. So you see if you can map to those strategies, okay, and then you work out what does the C-suite look like,
Nice.
what's the stakeholder mapping, right? Do you currently know someone in the company? Do you know who has the purchasing power, right?
Yeah.
And also who has the biggest pain, because your outreach will depend on that.
Yeah.
So you do that for your tier ones, and then you build an outreach plan, whether that be inviting them to events, getting your BDRs involved to do their outreach when it comes to cold calling, emails, bespoke LinkedIn messages. Video messaging works a lot, right?
Yeah.
As well. Sending them video messaging is great. It's a great
Nice.
tool, right? And then once you get going, when you get traction,
Yeah.
you then start having meetings
Mhm.
where you then what we call qualification.
Uh-huh.
You're trying to understand if there's an opportunity for you in there.
Yeah.
So once you qualify, then you move on to what we call discovery,
Okay.
where you get your pre-sales involved.
Mhm.
So pre-sales or tech sales or solution engineering,
Yeah.
they then start saying, okay, now that you've qualified, it's an opportunity for us. Let's get into discovery to see can we help them really. And they'll start talking about like, what does the solution look like?
The
Does it
technical
fit in?
aspects a bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. So they start talking about how is it going to fit overall? Is this going to work for us, or is this like, yeah, we cannot do this because it's a mismatch?
Yeah.
So once you do discovery, then you start working on solutioning.
Mhm.
So then you start putting together what it will look like, right? And once you start doing the solution, you realize, okay, this fits. Then you start talking about, okay, is there what you call a proposal phase? Can you propose something, right, which will meet the customer's needs, both from a product standpoint, but also
Yeah.
financial standpoint,
Yeah.
right?
And does that include like pricing, everything, or we're not
Everything.
there yet? The proposal part.
In the proposal part, it includes everything, right?
Okay.
So it obviously starts with what we understood from
Yeah,
the challenges,
your
what we
problems.
understood on the value you foresee. This is what we recommend from a solution standpoint, and then this is what our pricing looks like. So a full-blown proposal, right? When you receive it, whether it be like a document, a presentation, and then they ask you to present
Yeah.
as well. You come in person, because sometimes they do it to multiple people,
Yeah.
right? They issue it out to multiple people, or they're speaking to multiple vendors. So you come in, you do your presentation, and that's which is really key, because it's all the work you're doing in the past,
You have
right?
to land that presentation.
Plus, and the presentation. So people always say presentation is key, but sometimes I find that it's only window shopping, right? Or window dressing, basically, what they call it. They already know what they made up their mind, but they want to see how good you hold up in the room. So
Yeah.
that is very, very important to like make sure whatever you've been saying in doing your engagement, you reiterate that in the presentation, right? And once you do that, then it comes to negotiation, because they're like, okay, we want you, but your price point is not right, or maybe the solution needs a bit of tweak, etc. So you move from proposal to negotiation, and then it's decision time, right?
Yeah.
This is the best from our perspective and also from their perspective,
Yeah.
right? And that's when it comes to you close won it or you close lose it.
Okay.
So those are the like stages, and that's what we do as AEs. We manage the entire sales lifecycle.
Wow, it's because like for me at least,
Yeah.
I'm not that knowledgeable of sales.
Yeah.
So when you there's a lot to it before the purchase.
Yeah.
Because I also know there's a lot to it after the purchase
Of
when
course,
it comes to account management, as
Yeah,
you said,
that's right.
and growing the account. So it's when you describe all these details that
Yeah.
happened before.
Yeah.
I've never like thought that. Yeah, you need to do that much work
Yeah.
to really land a deal. But because you said you work in a higher tier of clients or customers, you really need to understand their operations, their strategy, their problems, and then just give them that, okay, this is where we match and this is what I'm able to offer you. So there's a lot to it, I think,
And
before the purchase that I wasn't aware of. From like before purchase, all these steps you described, it's not only you, right? So
Of
you
course,
sometimes work with the SDR, the
Yeah.
BDRs, maybe the three of you working.
Exactly.
So it really depends on how this customer approached you, and then based on that, what the information you have, you manage,
and this
how
is
you work
where
together.
you say you are the CEO, so you are responsible and you own it, but you take help from everyone else. So even when you think about outbound, there's a huge team, right? A marketing team, which get involved,
Correct.
which do like a lot of digital work. They do
Correct.
webinars, they do
Campaigns,
hosting events, they sponsor events, they sponsor exhibitions, right? Where they talk about Certinia, for example. So a lot of work is there done, but we own the life cycle and we're responsible, for the deal. So that's where an AE gets involved.
And you also mentioned that you're even involved beyond the purchase, no? Like the account growth.
Yeah.
So that's a different part of your role, I'm assuming.
Definitely. And in fact, it doesn't even stop at purchase, right?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we have done all that discovery. I built a relationship with the customer. They rely on us now because we did the deal with them. We partnered with them. So then they'll get involved in, okay, implementation. How do we implement it?
Wow.
Time to value. Are we seeing the realized value we sold them on, right? And also once we do that, what does growth look like? Continuous improvement, right? At the end of the day, I call it a marriage, right? A partnership with the customer.
Correct.
So,
and can you touch a bit more on that part? Like,
sure.
What do you do? Like, okay, they've onboarded, they started using the tools slightly. How do you contribute further in that area?
So, and there's another role involved, right? So there's a team called Customer Success Manager, a CSM, and they support on that. So basically, they get involved from day one. And they, in fact, many of the CSMs, they get involved pre-sales.
Okay.
As soon as we know the customer is going to make a purchase, but they're doing negotiations and it's sounding good, it's sounding positive and the probability is high, they get involved, they start building relationship with customers, understanding the value, and then their job actually it's already started, right? When it goes to customer conversations, talking about implementation plan. Are we delivering to what was planned out, right? And the challenges, because again, there's only so much discovery you do, but when you actually do the implementation, exactly. So how does that work,
and
right?
they talk to internal teams, I'm assuming, like
exactly.
the CSM team.
The CSM team talks with obviously us, what was planned out, what the implementation team, if that's in-house or even other partners, right? Because at the end of the day, there are many partners who do this. The customer might have a partner who say, we want to work with them to do the implementation for said software, right? So we work with them, and then it talks about, okay, what does the adoption plan look like? Because you don't just start off full bang, 2,000 people log on to the system on day one, right? What does go live look like? Adoption plan. What value they're realizing?
That's are you describing what you do now or the CSM team?
So
or
it's
the
a team.
mix?
It's a team. Yeah. So for example, we are responsible because if we don't drive adoption, we can't drive future sales. So we get involved, but we support the CSM. Because the CSM wants to own it, but at the end of the day, we are responsible for it.
True.
Right? Because it's, like I said, our territory. We have the CEO. So we work with them. But then when it gets further on, they'll talk about, okay, there's additional growth for additional sales. Or there's a new add-on, like a cross-sale.
Cross-sales.
So a new solution which can add on to it. For example, a life cycle I talked to you about. You start with a few elements in the start, and then like, okay, we can now build statement of work on our platform. We want to now move to resource management, project management, etc. Billing, revenue recognition, etc. So we can grow it organically.
Right.